Hi, Pearl Foy again. Just welcome you back to A to Z haircutting. You got all the different parts of the head yesterday, or on your last one, on A1. This is A, the first haircut. We are going A through Z. You will learn every little aspect about every different type of cut, the whys, why nots, what happens, what doesn't happen. It gives you a good understanding and you learn methods. Are you going to learn to cut? It's best that you get yourself a mannequin. This mannequin here, I got from one of my students. I don't like this mannequin. It's real hard to take on and off the stand. It's a little bit more difficult to work with. I can work with it, but for a beginner, my recommendation is to get a mannequin like this. Let me grab this one here. One like this, where you can, you're not going to do this to your client, by the way, where you can pull the hair back. You can find them on Amazon. You can go to Sally's and get one. You do want to get a human hair mannequin. You don't want to get one that's synthetic hair. You need to get a human hair mannequin to do this. But today we're going to learn the zero elevation. In other words, elevation means straight down. There's three things to a haircut. The section, how you section it. The next thing is how you elevate it, or how you're going to hold it. And the most important thing is how you cut it, the direction of the cut. What I want you to see in this mannequin, do you see that I've taken it all the way to the area behind the ear, down into the center nape, and behind the ear on this side? There's a specific on that, because when you do this particular zero elevation haircut, in other words, straight ahead, we're going to travel around the head. These all become guides for you to see where you're at and see where you're going. Remember, this is flat. It starts rounding out at the occipital. So if you don't know these terms, because these are the terms that we're going to be using for every haircut that we do, so it's recommended that you go to A1, listen to the terms, write them down. The other thing that we're going to be doing, of course, is diagramming. Here's the diagram. You can see it. Now I brought it straight across here, but in reality, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me move that. You can see that it goes back behind the ear and picks that up. The subsection is then eventually taken across. You'll see that in just a few minutes once I start cutting. Again, it's in 4 quadrants. However, the top is sectioned off. The reason for the top, and in many of the cuts that we do, is for the natural fall of the hair. That's a big factor. People try and bring it all down, and then the natural fall, because the way the hair moves, in other words, changes things. I mean, what happens here at the vertex? You have cowlicks. That's going to move the hair one way or the other. What happens in the area behind the ear? You have cowlicks. So those are all factors in hair cutting. Mannequins don't. Mannequins, they just grow them straight out. You don't find very many of them with cowlicks. And periodically you'll find a client, and I'm not going to turn the mannequin around, but along the forehead, they've got cowlicks right there that direct that hair back, forward, side to side. I've seen it just about everyone. And as you know, I've been doing hair for 52 years, so I've got a pretty good concept. It's been a while, you know. I've cut about every type of hair that you can cut. Cutting from A to Z, towards the end, yes, we're going to learn clipper cutting. You'll get to do barber work as well. All right, so what I want to do, before we start cutting our mannequin, I want to pop her up a little bit. Now that's another factor. If you're going to cut, put it where you can see it. For you to have them sit down and for you to bend down, your angle is no longer straight on. You always want your angle to be straight on. See what you're doing. How can you do it correctly if you can't see what you're doing? Again, you want to write it down. Everything I'm doing today, please take notes. I could send you my diagrams. You can get an old cosmetology book, probably at the thrift store, or again on Amazon, get a cosmetology book. It's going to have diagrams. The only way that you're going to learn this is if you diagram it and you learn to read your own instructions. Just like I've stated before, a cake recipe. You can watch somebody do it, but and it's your favorite, you loved it, they've made it forever, and now they're showing you how to do it. but they're not teaching you how to do it unless either you do it yourself or you take notes. I'm teaching you how to do this. I want you to take notes. I want you to practice. By the way, on our first one, A, how many of you went and looked for the lower ridge? That's going to be very, very important in some of the future haircuts. You need to be comfortable with that now to know exactly where the lower ridge is at. Okay, so I'm going to get my shear. And the one thing about a shear, you're not going to hold it like this to cut. You're not going to put your middle finger in there and try and cut the hair. This is where the ring finger goes. This is the tang, and these two they're like levels so that you can direct the cut and a place for your for your middle finger and your index finger. This is the thumb grip, all right? You want to use the very ends of your fingers, or we call it the balls of the fingers, to place. You don't want to take it back to the back. The first thing I want you to practice, I could just go ahead and start cutting. I'm not going to. I want to show you how to hold your shear. You notice that the shear is continually closed. When you're not using your shear, you take your thumb out and you hold it in this form. That's called palming your shear. This is a safety measure for you and whoever you're cutting, so that you don't slice yourself having the shear opened up, or your client. We don't want to do that. All of the haircuts, by the way, are going to be done on mannequins. We're not doing any hair cutting on people. I don't want you to cut people. I want you to cut mannequins. I could show you a haircut and then you'll try it on your child and you'll wonder why it didn't work. Practice on a mannequin. And then I show you the ins and outs of it as to what to look for, what to do. Every step by step, hair cutting A to Z, step-by-step directions. All right, so you're going to take your shear, you're going to hold it at the balls of the fingers. And this is called the primary position right here. You see that? Kind of held up, elbow down a bit. Primary position, but do you see that that shear is straight? Remember what I said about this? Section, angle, cut. This is the cutting line right here. This is the cutting line. This is the cutting line. We want a straight cutting line. This is the primary position. This is our secondary position. And this is our extended position. You will use all of those. Now, I'm not going to have you just take your shear and then start cutting. What I want you to do is hold it on the balls of your fingers, as you can see. I want you to hold it straight up. Bring your arm up, look at it. Bring your arm down. Bring your arm up, look at it again. You bring your arm down. Is that shear staying straight? Let's go to the secondary position. Bring your arm up, bring your arm down. Now I want to show you something. Remember I just told you put it where you can see it? Watch what happens if I let my client sit down and then I decide to bend down. Watch, it's a normal movement. That's the problem with it. What just happened to the shear? Do you see it? It's a normal movement. To make it straight, I have to remember, bring my elbow in. Do you remember that all the time? Not necessarily because you're busy talking and cutting. So, primary, secondary, extended, primary, up and down. Close your eyes, up and down. Is it straight? This, remember I told you that these fingers direct it one way or the other? You will develop an eye for it. You will develop a feel for it the more you do it. Especially if you look at it and say, okay, where do I need to be? Your first cut's not going to be boom. Your first cut's going to be slow, step by step. That's your first cut. That was my first cut, for goodness sake. You know. All right. And you know that I've taught for 32 years. So developing all these little skills have been from teaching for 32 years, have been from learning what I've got to do to make sure the students got it. I'm here to teach you methods. I'm not here to show you. I'm here to teach you. Secondary position, same thing. Up, down. See that? See how it went that way a bit? All right. Up, down. Close your eyes. Up, down. extended position, up, down, close your eyes, up, down. Keep it straight. Learn to look at your shear. Learn to look at what you're cutting. Learn to look at the hair. With the zero elevation, we're going to be looking at it quite a bit. My shear, spray it. Like I said, you can get mannequins, long-haired mannequins at Sally's. I'd recommend you do that. All right, the difficult part in teaching this to a camera is that I have to turn it and I'm going to have to be cutting at a slight angle. So it makes it just a little bit more difficult. I'll try not to get my back in front of you. Understand that when I'm cutting, I'm going to be doing three things. I'm going to section, and because this is a straight cut, I'm going to be right at the area at the very center nape. I'm going to bring it straight down. I'm going to place my index finger and my middle finger, and I want that taunt like I'm pulling the hair down. See, it's not coming out. I want to bring it to the length that I want to take off. Don't depend on your fingers. Some people have little crooked bumpy fingers. Depend on your shear. That's what's doing the cutting, not your fingers. If you follow your fingers with the shear, you're not going to get a straight cut. So I'm going to bring this straight down. I've determined I want to take this much off, and just at the center part, you never cut past the second knuckle, by the way. This is your first knuckle, second knuckle, there's your line. All right, secondary position. I want to make sure that the shear is straight. Can everybody see this? And I'm cutting straight across. Always have Band-Aids. You're going to need Band-Aids just in case. You don't cut to the skin. You cut slightly off of it. After you get used to it, you may be getting a little closer. I think I have a little snag right here. Like I said, I don't care for this mannequin. This is an excuse. Okay, notice that I'm using my ring finger to help guide it, bring it up, straight. Come on, shears cut. All right. Now we're here.